Welcome to Conversations That Awaken. This is a special series from A Course in Miracles that has inspired millions of readers around the world. Some see it as a spiritual masterpiece, others find it mysterious, challenging, or even controversial. Whatever brings you here, we invite you to leave your beliefs and your disbeliefs at the door. This is not a Bible study, this is not a sermon, and it is not about asking you to accept anyone else's truth. It is an invitation to investigate reality for yourself. I am Kim. In every episode, Joe and I will explore the text found in A Course in Miracles through 6 powerful lenses: science, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, direct experience, and everyday living. We'll ask difficult questions, we'll challenge assumptions, we'll laugh together, and we'll discover how these teachings can transform the way we see ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us. Whether you're new to A Course in Miracles or have studied it for decades, our purpose is simple: to uncover the timeless wisdom hidden beneath its words. We won't ask, what should we believe? We'll ask, what can we discover? Because awakening is not about collecting new ideas. It is about change in perception. It's about seeing clearly. It's about moving from fear to love, from separation to wholeness, from confusion to understanding. So take a deep breath, set aside everything you think you know, and join us for a special series in A Course in Miracles.
Imagine you're playing one of those incredibly immersive virtual reality games.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're talking next level, fully haptic technology where the headset completely takes over your visual field.
Mm-hmm.
And the audio is spatial and it's deafening and you are just entirely locked in.
You're completely immersed.
Exactly. And you're navigating this post-apocalyptic wasteland and you're terrified. I mean, you're constantly fighting off enemies, scavenging for resources, and your heart is just pounding out of your chest.
Right.
The stakes feel absolute. Like one wrong move and it's game over. You feel the adrenaline, the exhaustion, the pain. But then suddenly, someone gently taps your shoulder.
Oh, wow.
You flinch, you pull the headset off, and you realize you're sitting in a perfectly quiet, safe, comfortable living room.
That's such a trip.
Right. You were never actually in danger. The monsters weren't real. The wasteland wasn't real. The exhaustion wasn't real.
Yeah, the only thing that was real was the quiet room you were sitting in the entire time.
Yes.
It's a profound, almost jarring shift in perspective. You know, that instantaneous moment of realization where the terror simply evaporates, not because you defeated the monster, but because the source of the terror itself completely vanishes.
Right. And that shift, that total dismantling of what we perceive as reality is what we are jumping into today. We are taking a deep dive into some incredibly dense, highly philosophical source material. We're looking at excerpts from Chapter 13 of A Course in Miracles, specifically a section titled The Guiltless World.
And you know, before we get too deep into the mechanics of this, I think it's crucial to lay down a quick disclaimer just for context.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this material is heavily spiritual and deeply metaphysical. It uses a lot of traditional religious terminology like God, the Holy Spirit, Christ, the ego. But our mission today is not to endorse this thought system as absolute truth, nor are we here to take a theological side or debate its religious merits or, preach.
Right, we're not doing that.
No, our goal is to impartially map out the psychological and philosophical architecture it presents. Think of it the way you might approach reading Carl Jung or William James.
Okay, yeah.
Because regardless of your personal beliefs, the psychological framework this material builds regarding how the human mind operates is just undeniably fascinating.
It really is. Okay, so let's unpack this because there's a claim right out of the gate that honestly stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
It argues that if you did not feel guilty, you could not attack.
Yeah.
It posits that the entire world, as we experience it, like every conflict, every sorrow, every physical limitation, is an illusion built entirely by the human mind's obsession with guilt.
It's wild.
It is wild. So we are diving into how guilt supposedly builds our reality and how letting it go could literally alter the universe we perceive.
It is a radical premise for sure. And to understand how to escape this guilt-driven simulation, we first have to understand the causal chain of how it was built in the first place.
Right. How do we get the VR headset on to begin with?
Exactly. And that begins with the concept of the split mind and the mechanism of condemnation.
Okay, so the core thesis here is that condemnation is the root of attack.
Yeah, let's break down how that actually functions psychologically. Judging another mind requires perceiving yourself as fundamentally separate from it.
Okay.
When you condemn someone, when you judge them as unworthy of love and deserving of punishment, your mind is actually trying to pull off this desperate delusional trick to deal with cognitive dissonance.
Wait, how so?
Well, deep down, the ego, which in this framework is defined as our false separated sense of self, it feels an overwhelming, terrifying sense of internal guilt for separating from its source.
Right, the original separation.
Exactly. So to escape that internal punishment, the ego projects the guilt outward. It believes that by punishing another, by pointing the finger and saying, they are the guilty one, not me, it will somehow escape the penalty itself.
Oh man, it's like a cosmic game of hot potato.
Yes.
The ego is holding this burning coal of guilt, and it's frantically throwing it at anyone nearby so it doesn't get burned.
It is, but with a much darker twist. Because in this game, by throwing the potato at someone else, the ego actually convinces itself that the other person is the one who put it in the fire to begin with.
Oh wow. So it completely rewrites the story.
It completely rewrites your own perception of the event, and the tragic irony of this mechanism is that it utterly fails.
Because you still have the guilt.
Right. By attack, you don't get rid of the guilt, you actually make the guilt real in your own mind. It is a delusional attempt of the mind to deny its own reality. Holding on to guilt is what obscures the truth from us, and it drives the mind into a state of practical insanity.
Which brings us to a striking line from the sources. It says, the world you see is the delusional system of those made mad by guilt. And I really have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
Because I understand the psychological concept of projecting blame onto a coworker or a spouse. We all do that.
Right.
But according to this framework, everything we see, physical pain, natural disasters, the fact that children get sick, the fact that our physical biology withers away and dies, all of that is a symbol of psychological punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like living in a massive multiplayer virtual reality simulation where the foundational code is written entirely in guilt. But how can psychological guilt equate to a physical virus or a broken leg?
It's a leap.
It almost sounds like victim blaming on a cosmic scale.
I'm really glad you brought that up because it is the most common and frankly valid friction point when encountering this philosophy for the first time.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. If we try to map this onto our everyday understanding of physical biology, it sounds absurd, even offensive. But we have to look at it through the internal logic of the metaphysical architecture being presented.
Okay.
In this framework, the physical body itself and the entire physical universe is not a creation of God.
Wait, what?
It is a construct made by the ego specifically to prove that separation is real.
Wait, so the body is just a piece of the VR headset?
Exactly. That's exactly it. The ego uses the body day's vulnerability, its capacity to get sick, to be injured, to die as the ultimate proof that we are separate, fragile, and guilty.
Oh, I see.
So when the framework says illness or pain is a manifestation of guilt, it doesn't mean you consciously in this lifetime did something wrong to earn a broken leg.
Like a karmic punishment.
Right, not like that. It means the foundational blueprint of the entire physical dimension is coded with the belief in separation and punishment. The vulnerability of the body is just the ego's ongoing argument that you are not spirit, you are meat, and you are destined to suffer.
Okay, that makes the internal logic track better. If the whole game is rigged to prove we are fragile and separate, then pain is just a feature of the software. It's not a bug.
Exactly, a feature, not a bug.
And that leads to a major redefinition of the creator within this material. Because if this world of suffering, loss, and death were the real world, the ultimate reality, then whoever created it would have to be incredibly cruel.
Yes, and that is the cornerstone of its argument against traditional dogma.
Right.
The logic is quite airtight, really. A loving father would never subject his children to suffering, pain, and death as some sort of price of salvation.
Yeah, the phrase that kept sticking out to me in the reading was, love does not kill to save.
Which completely upends traditional concepts of divine justice. Consider the idea of salvation through sacrifice. Historically, humanity has fixated on narratives like Adam's original sin bringing death into the world as a punishment,
Right.
or the crucifixion being a necessary blood sacrifice to appease a wrathful God. This architecture posits that those interpretations are entirely the ego's doing. The ego feels guilty, so it imagines a God who demands blood to balance the scales.
So wait, humanity basically invented a terrifying punitive God to justify our own internal feelings of guilt. Like we felt bad, so we built a monster in the sky who wants to punish us just so our guilt made sense?
That's the implication, yeah. We project our own demand for punishment onto the divine.
Wow.
But this philosophy states that perfect love cannot condemn. It argues that the collective unified spirit of humanity, what it terms God's Son, is completely guiltless.
Because the separation didn't actually happen.
Exactly. It cannot be condemned because the separation from the source never truly happened. We just fell asleep and dreamt it did.
We put the headset on.
Right. So atonement, therefore, isn't about paying a bloody price or suffering to earn your way back. It's simply waking up. It raws the realization that the room was quiet and safe the whole time.
That is so powerful. And if we pull that down from the metaphysical clouds and look at our everyday lives, it's remarkably applicable. Think about how heavily we invest in the idea that suffering is the required price of admission for success or peace.
Oh, absolutely.
We have this culturally baked-in no pain, no gain mentality. We glorify the hustle, the burnout.
Hustle culture is huge.
Yeah, and if a relationship isn't hard work, we think it isn't real.
Right.
If we aren't suffering, we feel like we aren't earning our keep. The framework suggests this is just a manufactured law of the ego. It's a way to keep us trapped in a cycle of punishment.
It is deeply ingrained in us to mistrust ease and joy. So if we establish that the ego uses guilt to build this painful simulation, the next logical question is, how does it keep us trapped inside it? What sustains the illusion day after day?
Okay, yeah.
And the mechanism the ego uses to lock the doors is our perception of time, specifically the concepts of past and future.
This was my absolute favorite part of the material. The ego uses time as a distraction. It invests completely in the past, and it ensures its own survival by making the future look exactly like the past.
Let's trace the causality here, because it's brilliant.
Let's do it.
The ego's entire existence relies on guilt. But guilt cannot exist in a vacuum. It requires a past action to feel guilty about.
Sure.
And furthermore, it demands a future punishment for that action. So the ego creates a continuum. It explicitly links the past to the future, and in doing so, it effectively erases the present moment entirely.
Because the present is dangerous to it.
Exactly. To the ego, the now has no meaning. The present is just a terrifying microscopic sliver of time where we might actually wake up, so the ego rushes us through it, using it only as a staging ground to project past hurts into future anxieties.
Okay, so it's like the ego is forcing us to drive a car down the highway at 80 miles an hour, but it's bolted our head facing backwards.
I love this analogy.
Right, so we are staring exclusively into the rear view mirror. And because we are only looking at the wreckage we've already passed, we guarantee we'll crash into the exact same obstacles over and over again in the future.
That's such a vivid image, but let's push that analogy even further.
Okay.
It's not just that your head is bolted backwards. It's that the ego is simultaneously controlling the gas pedal and whispering in your ear, look at that accident you caused 5 miles back. The police are definitely waiting up ahead to arrest you for it.
Oh man, that is so stressful.
Right. You are experiencing the depression of the past and the anxiety of the future simultaneously. You are entirely blind to the actual road you are currently driving on.
You never actually experienced the drive.
Never. You're just reacting to memories and fears. But the material introduces a counterforce to this egoic trap, which it calls the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Within this psychological architecture, this represents the voice of sanity, the memory of reality and perfect love, and this voice has a radically different interpretation of time.
It views the only purpose of time as rendering itself unnecessary, which is just a mind-bending paradox.
Yeah.
Time only exists so we can learn that we don't actually need time.
Think about it structurally. While the ego wants to stretch time out endlessly to ensure a continuous loop of past guilt and future punishment, this counterforce focuses entirely on the now.
Just the present.
Yeah, the now is described as the closest approximation of eternity that this simulation offers. Why? Because in the pure, unadulterated present moment, completely stripped of memories of past hurts and fears of future retribution, you are completely safe.
Right, there's no guilt in a pure present.
There's nothing to be guilty about right now.
And it states unequivocally that healing cannot be accomplished in the past. It must happen in the present to release the future.
Exactly. You cannot go back into the virtual reality game and change the code of a level you already played.
Right.
You can only take the headset off now.
Now.
Which brings up an interesting structural question.
What's that?
If the past isn't real and the future is just a projection, what happens to the whole timeline when we finally heal?
Oh, there's this fascinating, almost cinematic visual provided for that in the reading. It says that time seems to go in one direction, stretching out endlessly. But when you finally realize your own guiltlessness, The whole timeline will roll up like a long carpet spread along the past behind you and will disappear.
It's beautiful.
I love that. We think we were walking down this long, grueling, exhausting path carrying all this baggage, but the moment we stop and realize we are innocent, the whole carpet just rolls up and vanishes behind us.
Because the journey was fundamentally useless.
Right.
The material actually calls the journey that the ego sets us on useless indeed. It's a treadmill.
You're not going anywhere.
You're just exhausting yourself. It contrasts this with the journey of waking up, which is one of instantaneous release. The voice of sanity, it says, stands at the end of time, having already undone everything unworthy of us.
Okay, let's pause here. Because if living in the now without guilt is the cure to all human suffering,
Yeah.
if we can just step off the treadmill, let the carpet roll up and be free, the most obvious glaring question is, why do we just do it?
Right.
I mean, if someone handed me the actual keys to get out of the terrifying VR wasteland, I'd rip the headset off immediately.
Yeah.
Why would anyone choose to stay in the wasteland? But there is a massive psychological plot twist here.
There is, and it is arguably the most profound psychological insight in the entire architecture.
Yeah.
It delves into the concept of self-deception. We aren't actually afraid of what we think we are afraid of.
Right. We think we are afraid of pain. We think we're afraid of the ego or of the cruelty of the world or even of our own dark, hostile impulses. But this framework argues, no, you aren't really disturbed by your hostility. You keep your dark side hidden because you are far more afraid of what it covers up.
Exactly.
You are utterly terrified of redemption.
This is the crux of the human condition, according to this text. Beneath the ego's dark foundation, beneath all the manufactured guilt, the anxiety, the fear, and the projected hatred, is an intense, burning love.
Right.
A perfect unity. And the claim is that we have built this entire insane, painful belief system, this whole world of suffering, specifically as a shield to hide from that love.
Which sounds crazy initially, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
There is a direct question posed in the text. In honesty, is it not harder for you to say I love than I hate?
Oh, yeah.
And I stopped and I thought about that. And honestly, yes.
It is.
It often is. It feels infinitely more vulnerable.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
Why would returning to a state of perfect peace and infinite love terrify us so much that we would literally prefer to suffer?
It comes down to how we have defined our existence. We associate love with weakness, with dissolving, with surrender. And we associate attack, defense, and grievances with strength, or what the text calls grandeur. Think about human identity.
Right.
Our ego, our separate self, is built entirely out of our unique problems, our past traumas, our specific achievements, and our grievances against others.
Like, I am the person who was wronged by X.
Or I am the person who achieved Y against all odds.
It's our personal storyline. That's who we are.
Exactly. Now, what happens if you fully embrace the living oneness described here? If you hear the call of perfect love and respond joyously, realizing you are entirely unified with everything else, the boundary lines of your individual self dissolve. The entire individual world you made vanishes.
Wow. So taking off the VR headset means the avatar you spent years leveling up ceases to exist.
That's exactly it. And to the ego that is death, the ego equates waking up with total obliteration. It whispers to you that returning to perfect love will crush you into nothingness. It insists that your magnitude, your importance, lies in your defiance, in being separate, in being a unique individual who must attack and defend to survive.
So we are terrified of redemption because redemption means the end of our carefully curated, separate identity.
Exactly. We would rather be the star of a tragic, painful movie than realize the movie isn't real and the theater is empty.
Man, it literally says we would rather be a slave to the crucifixion, meaning a slave to suffering and sacrifice, than be redeemed.
It's a powerful image.
It is. We value our individual death more than our living oneness. There's a quote, "You think you have made a world God would destroy, and by loving him you would throw this world away, which you would." That is a heavy, heavy pill to swallow.
It is.
We cling to our misery because at least it's our misery. It defines us.
It's the ultimate airtight defense mechanism. We use a world of pain to blanket our love because experiencing that love threatens the illusion of separation we've worked so hard to build.
Okay, so let's track the logic so far. We are secretly terrified of this ultimate redemption because it means losing our individual identity.
Right.
So to avoid it, we hold on to our guilt. But we can't bear the raw feeling of guilt either, so we project it outward.
Exactly.
Let's look at how this mechanism bleeds into our daily lives.
Yeah.
How does this distort our actual everyday relationships?
The concept of projection is the engine of our daily interactions here. The foundational rule is projection makes perception.
Right.
What you see in the physical world, and especially in other people, is just a mirror of what you are secretly holding in your own mind.
There is a haunting line about this. It says, each one peoples his world with figures from his individual past.
Yeah.
It argues that when we are interacting with someone, especially in conflict, we aren't actually reacting to the living, breathing human being standing in front of us. We are reacting to shadowy figures.
We are interacting with ghosts. Let's map out a granular scenario of how this physically alters perception.
Yeah, give me an example.
Say you open an email from a coworker. The email is short, maybe a bit blunt. It says, I need this report by 5. In reality, in the pure present moment, it's just a request for data. But you feel a spike of intense anger and anxiety.
Instant defensive mode.
Right. Why? Because you aren't reacting to the coworker. You have instantly dressed that coworker up in the costume of a hypercritical parent from your childhood or a past boss who humiliated you.
The coworker disappears and the ghost takes their place.
Precisely. You refuse to let go of the past, so you drag it into the present. The framework argues that when you attack that coworker, whether you snap back in an email or just seethe with resentment at your desk, you are quite literally attacking something that isn't there.
Wow.
You are attacking a holographic image you projected onto them, an image pieced together from your own unhealed guilt and past reactions. You are completely blind to who they actually are in the present moment. You are just fighting your own split mind.
And the tragedy of that is you miss the actual person.
Yes.
By fighting the ghost, you deny yourself what the material calls a holy encounter, because a genuine connection can only happen in the present.
And this projection leads directly to what the text terms special or unholy relationships.
This part is fascinating to me. Using relationships not for connection, but for displacement.
Yes. We displace our guilt onto outside sources to avoid facing our own internal cognitive dissonance. We think if I can just find the right person to love me perfectly, it will fix my internal lack.
Or conversely, if I can just blame my ex or my boss or my parents for my misery, then I am innocent.
Right. But this philosophy asserts that any union in which you seek to lay your guilt upon someone else or use them to extract your own individual salvation makes that relationship entirely unreal.
It's not a real connection.
No, it is not based on a shared reality. It is an arrangement of mutual projection, two people interacting with ghosts.
You see guilt in the relationship because you planted it there.
Exactly.
It makes you realize how often we drag massive, stormy, dark clouds from a past betrayal into a brand new interaction. The new person doesn't stand a chance.
You really don't.
The framework says that to be born again simply means dropping the baggage. It means letting the past go and looking at the present without condemnation.
It offers a profound operational definition of forgiveness.
Yeah. How so?
Well, in our culture, forgiveness is often framed as a kind of moral high ground.
Right, like I'm the bigger person.
Yeah, you did a terrible real thing to me, but I am spiritually generous, so I will let it slide.
Right.
But forgiveness in this architecture is radically different. Forgiveness here is recognizing that the terrible thing you think they are doing now is actually just your own projected past.
Wait.
It's realizing that in the absolute present moment, they are entirely guiltless. And therefore, so are you. You forgive them for what they didn't do.
Oh, wow. That is a complete paradigm shift.
It changes everything.
So let's follow this to its natural conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
When we actually manage to do that, when we stop projecting the past, when we drop the guilt, when we forgive the present moment, what happens to our perception? The material outlines a clear destination. It details a transformation from what it calls perception to something it calls knowledge.
This is a vital philosophical distinction to grasp, and it requires us to separate how we currently function from how ultimate reality functions.
Yeah, break that down.
Right now, we operate 100% of the time in the realm of perception, and perception is inherently tied to scarcity.
Scarcity.
Yes. In the world of perception, we are individual bodies that lack things, and therefore we need to acquire them to survive.
Yeah, it calls out the ego's obsession with consumerism and possessions.
Oh, heavily.
There's a quote, possession for its own sake is the ego's fundamental creed.
Yeah.
The ego demands we acquire an endless list of things, status, money, partners, objects, basically building a world entirely out of scarcity.
Huh.
But it contrasts this with the counterforce, the Holy Spirit, who recognizes that our true nature has absolutely no needs.
Because in ultimate reality, which the framework equates with heaven or knowledge, you are completely whole. You lack nothing. But as long as we're in the VR simulation, in the world of perception, we experience lack. Now, the Holy Spirit offers a bridge out of this. It offers a correction to our faulty perception, which is termed true perception or Christ's vision.
So what does true perception look like in practice? If I'm using true perception, what am I seeing?
It is the ability to look at that coworker who sent the blunt email and see them completely free of the past.
Just seeing them.
Yeah, it's seeing their inherent innocence instead of your projected grievance. When you look through that corrected lens, you perform what the material calls a miracle.
Okay, so a miracle here isn't a magic trick.
No, it isn't defying the laws of physics to walk on water. A miracle is simply a shift in perception.
A shift in perception.
It is a true perception of one aspect of the whole. It's offering someone a complete release from guilt.
But, and this is a big caveat in the material, even this perfect true perception is still temporary. It's not the final destination.
No, it is just a stepping stone. And this is where the distinction between perception and knowledge comes in. To understand this, let's use an analogy.
Okay, I love analogies.
Imagine perception is like reading a piece of highly complex sheet music. Even if you have true perception, meaning you are reading the notes perfectly, you understand the tempo, the dynamics, how every instrument interacts, you are still engaged in an active separation.
Okay, how so?
There is you, the reader, and the sheet music, the object being read. There are individual notes, separate measures, distinct parts.
Okay, I'm following. You're analyzing the parts.
Right. Knowledge, on the other hand, is what happens when you put the sheet music down and you are simply in the room while the symphony is being played.
Oh, wow.
You aren't reading individual notes anymore. The separation between you, the music, and the instruments dissolves into a single, unified experience of sound.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
The material states, knowledge has no aspects or parts. It is entirely whole and everywhere. Perception, even perfect perception, implies a perceiver and a perceived.
Right, a subject and an object.
Exactly. In knowledge, there is only unity.
So miracles, or true perception, are us learning to read the sheet music perfectly. We are clearing away the errors of the ego so we can understand the music. But we can't manufacture the symphony ourselves.
Exactly. The text states that the final step must be taken by God. We can use miracles to clear away our own projections, but only the Creator can lift us from the world of perception entirely and return us to the realm of knowledge.
And there is a deeply comforting, almost exhaling finality to how this concludes regarding heaven. We talked earlier about how the ego advises sleep and death as the best ways to handle the crushing weight of guilt.
Yeah, the ego's way out.
The ego's message is basically life is a bitter, unwinnable war. The best you can hope for is oblivion.
Right, just check out.
But the material insists that the war is an illusion. It states very plainly the war is gone.
You cannot be at war with something that isn't real.
Right.
You cannot fight a holographic monster. The architecture reassures the reader that because ultimate reality is built on perfect love, it is absolutely guaranteed. It says the will of God can fail in nothing.
I love this specific line. You do not have to know that heaven is yours to make it so. It is so.
It completely removes the anxiety of spiritual failure.
Yeah, it really does.
Think about how many belief systems tell you that you have to work endlessly to earn your way back to grace, that if you mess up, you might fail the test and be condemned forever.
Like you missed the boat.
Exactly. This psychological framework says that is fundamentally impossible. You are already safe in the quiet room. You are merely dreaming of a bitter exile. The communication link between you and your source cannot be broken, even if you are trying incredibly hard to ignore it by staring into the VR headset.
Wow. So taking a step back and looking at the vast architecture we've explored today.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. But the logical through line is breathtaking. The framework argues that guilt is the foundational code that builds our physical reality of pain and separation. Time, specifically our obsession with the past and fear of the future, is the mechanism that sustains it, keeping us on the treadmill. Our deep secret fear of losing our individual identity is the firewall that protects the illusion, making us choose suffering over unity.
Perfectly said.
And projecting our internal guilt onto shadowy figures from our past is how we navigate our daily interactions within this simulation.
But the escape hatch is always available in the present moment.
Always.
By embracing the absolute now, by refusing to drag the past into the present, and by forgiving others, which means recognizing their inherent guiltlessness and seeing through the ghost, we dissolve the illusion. We stop giving reality to the nightmare. We realize the monsters were just pixels coated in guilt.
Which brings us to the ultimate application of this. We've used the metaphor of the virtual reality headset throughout this deep dive to explain how the ego builds a false world of suffering. But looking at our actual daily lives, it leaves us with a fascinating and maybe slightly unnerving final thought to mull over.
Yeah, it's a profound question to walk away with.
It is.
If, as this text suggests, we never truly meet anyone but ourselves and our enemies are just our own unhealed past disguised in the present, who is the person in your life right now that you are refusing to forgive? And what secret guilt of your own are they holding up a mirror to?
Thank you for listening. If today's conversation resonated with you, please take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may benefit from these reflections on A Course in Miracles and the deeper questions of life. Your support allows us to continue creating conversations that explore consciousness, reality, love, forgiveness, and what it truly means to awaken. I'm Kim Kaur, and it is my privilege to introduce Joe Bandra. Joe is an author, philosopher, speaker, healthcare technology pioneer, and a lifelong explorer of humanity's greatest questions. For more than 3 decades, he has worked at the intersection of science and medicine while pursuing an equally passionate exploration of A Course in Miracles. His first book, Finding Neve, is a transformative journey into self-discovery and the search for lasting happiness. His second book, Body, Mind, and Machine, shares his remarkable career in healthcare technology and the evolution of a profession dedicated to improving human lives. His upcoming work, The Nature of Reality, brings together science, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, and direct experience to explore one of humanity's oldest questions. What is reality really? Through every conversation, Joe invites us to question our assumptions, look beyond appearances, and discover a deeper understanding of ourselves, each other, and the extraordinary universe we share. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and above all, keep awakening.
Life often feels like an endless list of tasks, constant noise and distractions, pulling us in every direction. We're all searching for happiness, but what if we've been looking in the wrong places all along?
This was Nevaeh's journey. Lost in the noise, she felt cut off from the peace and happiness she longed for. Until she met Joe Bandra, an unconventional, insightful philosopher with a different perspective. Jay, as he is simply known, didn't hand her a map. He gave her something far more valuable, a compass, a way to turn inward, navigate her own thoughts, and uncover the clarity hidden beneath the chaos.
Readers around the world have been touched and inspired by Finding Nevaeh.
Your journey to inner peace begins now. Get your copy of Finding Nevaeh, available on Amazon and at findingnevaeh.org, or listen to the audiobook on Audible, Spotify, Apple, and other platforms.